Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to In the Garden with Joyful Living. I am Kimberly Dixon. While we wait for a few people to join us, I'm going to go ahead and start showing you the garden. But before I do that, let me thank our sponsors. Y'all see that? My head got all big and everything. As I stepped in a hole, I almost fell. We don't want to fall. I'm too old to be falling and rolling around on the ground, y'all. But before we get started, let me thank our sponsors of In the Garden with Joyful Living. And that includes Love is a Parable, whose mission it is to spread more love through love education and random acts of kindness. Blackology Coffee, whose mission and purpose it is to teach us how to enjoy a delicious cup of black coffee. And our individual patrons of Carolyn Billups, Malcolm Dixon, and Valerie Dixon. It's so amazing at the progression of time, and sometimes we don't recognize the things that have happened. But I saw a video, somebody commented on an old video from last year. Yeah, it was last year around this time, and it was when I first started seeking sponsors. And here I am now, a year later, with 5 different sponsors that support the Joyful Living Garden on a consistent basis. And that doesn't include all the people who just send seeds and things of that nature. So even when you don't think you're making progress, if you see something from the past, it'll remind you. But while we wait for more people to join us, let me show you the garden. So I'm in a slightly different location. I'm trying to watch the ground because it's kind of bumpy over here. But this is the watermelon plant. It is doing so well. It's lush and green. You see that bumblebee doing some pollinating this morning. My fear, though, is I started seeds 4 different times. The heavy rains that we kept getting in May kept killing the seedlings. And I planted them 4 different times before some seeds actually survived. Now, this plant looks beautiful. But you see the watermelon, that's not the only one on here. There are several, but they are so small. Good morning, Robin. Gosh, I haven't seen you in such a long time. So glad to have you on, honey. The watermelons are so tiny. My fear is that they won't have enough time to get big before we start getting the cooler temperatures of the fall. But if the fall is anything like these last few days, we might get 1 or 2 off of there. But look, I have the marigolds in there. Just like most of my other pots, they have marigolds in there. But I'm going to walk around and show you the tomatoes as well. Because most of the time I just show you the things that are on the deck. But when we get up on the deck, you'll see why we're walking around the yard today. That is the sweet potato vine that I'm letting vine up around the porch. And it's in a 15-gallon bucket. It has some caterpillar damage, but it's okay. And this is where my beefsteak and Paul Roberson tomato are. This is a shade cloth, and Lord knows we have needed it the last few days. But look at this. Oh, got some tomatoes on there that are ready. But this is supposed to be a beefsteak tomato plant. Look how tall it is. But I don't think it is, because I started this from seed. And the tomatoes are slightly bigger than a golf ball. They're delicious, but they're not getting nearly the size that a slicing tomato should. So I think the seeds were mislabeled, because I have fertilized and pruned it and prayed over it and done everything that I can do, but the tomatoes are not getting big. It has lots on there. You can see lots of green tomatoes all over it, but they're not getting big. That's a sunflower that I planted after the ones on the front, because I love sunflowers. This is my Paul Roberson tomato. I don't know if you guys remember, but earlier in this season, I thought I had killed this thing. Y'all, even with my expertise, yes, I still kill things. So don't call yourself a brown thumb if something dies. Just try again. But I dropped the brick on it when I was planting it and broke it. And then I messed around and let the sun, the sun scalded it and it shriveled up. And part of it died, but the piece that I broke off of it, Lord, that's a sermon right there in itself. I just stuck it in the ground and it developed roots and it took off. But it's not quite as tall as the other one. That tomato plant over there is it's almost 7 feet tall because it's way taller than I am. I'm 5'9". But look at the tomatoes on this plant. This is a Paul Roberson, and it's going to be, those are slicing tomatoes. And it's one of the black varieties, which means it's not a solid black tomato, but it will have a really dark color to it. So I'm excited to see what those taste like because I've never had any. But it's got lots of flowers on it and lots of tomatoes, and it's getting pretty tall. It's almost as tall as I am now. But we're going to run up. I'm going to put my shade cloth back up because it's going to be another scorcher. Normally during the day, I'll take it down and let it get early morning sun. But I'm going to be gone all day today. And I don't want the sun to damage it because it's been scorching. Just bear with me. I put it up pretty loosely. But see, it has these little holes in it. So it allows the plant to get some sun, just not too much. Just like us, it can get burned and scalded and all of that kind of stuff. But we're up on the deck now. And you can see I still have my shade cloth up. But on this end of my shelving, it gets direct sunlight most of the day. And that's too much for even the peppers. Peppers are sun-loving plants. But too much of it will cause the peppers to get something called sun scald. But none of these have sun scald because I moved them. So we really can't do a full tour of what's on the deck because I slid everything back so that it is protected from the most intense sun throughout the day. But I see, you probably can't see that back there, but some of the Roma tomatoes are ready to be picked this morning. And I'm sure some of these sweet banana peppers are ready too. And there are lots of bell peppers over there, but I'm going to let them start turning red. But I can see bumblebees just fluttering around all over, putting the work in this morning. So, I'm enjoying some Blackology coffee this morning out of my Plant Mom mug that actually came from Lori Jones, the owner of Blackology. And I'm also enjoying some water because I'm gonna be outside today, so you want to make sure that you stay hydrated. But I want to come to you this morning and talk just a minute about pointing fingers at the past. That's a really big topic. We all have a past, and unfortunately, sometimes things have occurred in our past, in our childhood, in our teens, or even in our young adult years that really left a scar. It left an indelible mark because of something that happened, a car accident, a parent passing away, those things that just really, some type of trauma or abuse or neglect that just left an indelible mark on us. And it was really painful, it was really hurtful, and in many ways it had the potential to stunt our growth. But this is the thing I wanted to really talk about, because this week I had a conversation with a woman. I guess she was probably about 55, so she's older than me. But in that conversation, I wish I could tell you the number of times she said my mama did. And she used the treatment of her mama as justification for everything that was going wrong in her life today as a 55-year-old. Now, this particular woman, I know her personally. Her mother has passed away. She's been gone for a long time. So for her to still be pointing fingers at the past and blaming her mom for the things that are going on today is slightly askew. Because at some point in our lives as adults, and I'm not talking about young adults, I'm talking about mature adults, we have to have accountability and responsibility for our behavior and our actions. Yes, some things have happened to us that were hurtful, that were painful, that were wrong, that wasn't fair, that left an indelible mark. But at some point, you get to decide whether you're going to allow the past to dictate your future, or are you going to stay stuck there. The amount of power this woman was giving to a deceased person was unbelievable. But sometimes in our trauma, we don't realize that we are allowing one of two things to happen. Some people, use their past trauma, their pain, their hurt as a justification to mistreat other people. They mistreat their spouse, their husband or their wife. They mistreat their children. They mistreat their co-workers. They mistreat people in the church. But your own personal trauma is never justification to mishandle someone else. We are children of God, and as a child of God, you don't get to mistreat others and it not have repercussions. He said, love each other, love one another. And some people take their past and their pain and their trauma, and they project that out into the world. They project it onto others. And if you come into their path, then you're going to be one of their victims. But they don't realize that they have taken on being a victim as their mantra, as their badge of honor. They hold it up like, well, this happened to me. I get a pass on the rest of my life. And that's not how it works. So I want to encourage you to take a look at your past, to get some healing for your past, whether that be through therapy, through meditation, through getting a life coach. But the number one way to get some healing from your past is by turning to God, by talking to God and forming a relationship with Him. And then some people use their past trauma and their pain and their hurt as a reason to lay down and die. What I mean by lay down and die is they give up. They lose their hope. They lose their hope in themselves. They lose their hope in the future. And sadly, and most importantly, they lose their hope in God. But I want you to know that everything that the enemy meant to try to destroy you, God will use that thing to bless you. So instead of giving up, how about trying to figure out a way you can use your hurt and your pain to help someone else along their journey? So that's one of my firm beliefs, that we're only here to help each other along the way. We're here to help each other through this journey called life, because it can be tough. Excuse me, something that's flying around me. But at some point, we have to take accountability and responsibility for the life that we want. Do you want to be angry and mad and sad your entire life? Or do you want to be full of joy, full of life, giving and loving? I don't know about you, but I would rather be full of love and joy instead of full of hate and bitterness. Because whatever you're full of is what you will put out into the world. If you're full of love and joy, the words that you speak and the actions that you perform will reflect that love and joy. But if you're full of bitterness, hate, and anger, the things that you put out into the world will reflect that. You will spew out words that hurt people. You will do things that are malicious and that are spiteful and mean and hurtful. So, whatever happened to you, whatever trauma that occurred, whether it was at the hands of a parent, a grandparent, a foster parent, I'm a new foster parent, whatever was projected onto you by them, if you do the same thing to the generation that comes behind you, then you are the same person that they are. And you may dislike what they did, but now you are full of venom. You're just like a snake that is constantly biting and hurting other people. But at some point, you have to stop pointing fingers at the past and decide that you're going to be accountable and responsible for the things that are occurring in your life now. So you point fingers at the past, you stay stuck there, and you become a victim. You are allowing it to dictate everything that comes up in the future for you, everything that all the possibility and all the potential that is on your life. You allow the past to rob that from you. Good morning, Lori. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to have you on, doll. We allow those things from the past to stifle us, to suffocate us, to keep us stuck, reliving the same trauma, the same hurt, the same pain over and over again. Because this is the thing, your mind doesn't know the difference in you remembering something and it happening in real life. So every time you're rehashing that story, good morning, Denise, and using that story from the past to justify your feelings and behavior current day, then you're being a victim to the past. You're staying stuck there, and your mind and your body feels it just like it's happening real time. I want you to think about it. Try this exercise. Think about a time when you were really happy, when you were laughing so hard your belly hurt, and see how your body responds to that, and how the memory is so fresh in your mind like it's happening right now. Good morning, Sandra. But then think about something that made you sad, and see how your body responds to that, how your heartbeat changes as a result of that. When we stay stuck in the past and we are constantly rehashing the past and we're holding it up like a badge of honor, like this is what happened to me and that's why I do such and such. Or you'll hear people say it all the time, this is just me. But in actuality, this is just who you're choosing to be. You get to decide. You get to decide whether you're going to stay stuck in the past and allow it to dictate your present and your future, or whether you're going to look at your past and decide, I'm going to use it to bless other people. That's a choice you get to make. At some point in our lives, we have to become accountable and responsible for our present and our future. We can't do anything about the past. Yes, we wish mama, daddy, grandma, foster parent, I just became a new foster parent, had done something differently, but they didn't. And in most instances, they are dealing with their own trauma. And as parents, we often just do the best we know how with the set of tools that you have. But guess what? You're watching In the Garden with Joyful Living. You have some tools that will allow you to have a different present and a different future. So don't stay stuck in the past. Decide what it is that you want today and what you want in your future, and then start working towards it. Because instead of complaining about what happened in the past, use that to bless somebody else. And I promise you, when you're blessing them, your pain will become less and less over time. Just like I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, whatever Satan meant to destroy you, God will use that thing to bless you if you allow him to. if you make the choice that I'm not going to be stifled by this. I'm not going to let this dictate the rest of my life. If you're 70 years old still talking about what how you were treated by your mom and them, not just in sharing it with other people, but in holding it up like a badge of honor and using it as justification for you to behave badly, then you've missed the point. You've missed the point of this whole life, because we are here to bless each other. We are here to encourage one another. He says, encourage ye one another. We are here to love one another. So stop pointing fingers at the past and ask God, how can I use this to bless someone else? Because I want you to be full of love and joy and just those things that spread contagiously throughout the world, not full of hate and bitterness, because that'll spread throughout the world too. But love is like light, and you can't light and dark can't exist in the same space. Light will push out dark every time. So let's put some light into the world with love and joy. Guys, thank you for watching In the Garden with Joyful Living. Give you one more look at the garden before I get off of here. It is all pushed back because at a certain point of the day, the sun is coming from that direction, and the plants there are in direct sunlight all day. So I pushed everything back to protect it from the sun. Sun is good for it, but too much of it will destroy the fruit. It'll cause it to get sun scald. But look at all of those peppers, guys. Good morning, Gwen. Good morning, Jenny. Is Michael with you this morning? But all of those peppers, it's jalapeno peppers and bell peppers and sweet banana peppers and tomatoes and squash over in the corner. But anyway, I just love watching things grow, because to me that is a manifestation of just being able to see God working. To come out here one day and a tomato be green and the next day it's red. Yep, I know people will be like, where's the sun? And all of the chemical reactions and the things that take place to cause that to happen. But in reality, he watching TV upstairs. Well, you tell him Aunt Kim said good morning and that I love him. But in reality, I know that it's God. That is nothing but God, watching God work, watching him move, and to see how things manifest from a seed to a fruit that will continue to feed other people because it's got seeds in it. That's the way God set things up, so that we will continue to reproduce. But anyway, I get off the topic. Stop pointing fingers back at the past and decide what it is, what you want for the future. And then make the moves to make that happen, so that you are full of love and joy and peace. Lord, living a peaceful life, you can't pay for that. All right, guys, I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. The grape tomatoes are still thriving. The storm ruined our tomato plants. Doggone it. I wanted to see how you guys beefsteak and Paul Roberson tomato, but these storms have been ferocious. But I'm glad the cherry tomatoes, the grape tomatoes are still doing well. Mine are still doing well too. All right, I will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.